Welcome to the Pump Rules Podcast, the show where cast and connoisseurs come to talk all things Vanderpump Rules. Welcome, Katie Maloney, to Pump Rules Podcast.
Welcome.
Hello.
Quite an eventful episode.
It's been an eventful season, but yes.
Yeah, and you've been getting a lot of attacks online.
Lots of love.
Yeah, that's right. Lots
affection.
of love. Yeah. Love and affection. You're their favorite.
Well, is today opposite date? No, it's not. Yeah, shout out to the people that have been giving me love and showing me support. I feel like they're getting lost amongst the garbage, but I do see that and I appreciate that. But unfortunately, there's so many assholes that are kind of ruining my experience, my interaction with people on social media. So it just put a bad taste in my mouth. So I've kind of not really abstained, but haven't not been very active.
Yeah, well, it's good to limit your exposure to stuff that's just going to kind of bum you out.
Yeah, I would hate to say that it does, but it does.
Sometimes you just look at it at the right time, or the wrong time, rather, and it can be a real drag.
You don't want to rage tweet and give everyone what they want, so.
Sometimes I do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, most of the time abstaining for sure, but it's just, I want to be active. I want to, write back to the people who are supportive and amazing and have been a fan and watched the show for so long. But it's just, there's just so much garbage, and it's so heartbreaking to see how cruel people can be. And especially when I'm being accused of being this horrific, awful person, but I don't think I've even said as horrific things as these people are saying to me.
Sure. Or about you.
Or about me. But I mean, just when someone's like, you're such a bully, you nasty bitch. Like, you should die. Like, I'm like, have you met Pot Kettle? Like, what is going on here? Like, something about glass houses and rocks? I don't know.
Yeah, there would be a lot of shattered glass around. One of the things that someone said about you this season so far that I thought was a bit much was saying that you have a drinking problem.
Yeah. I've basically been calling that a convenient narrative when people don't want to take accountability, or they want to just place blame entirely on me for a situation, whether or not it was a reaction to something they said or did. If I had any kind of reaction, it was essentially just like, oh, well, here you go, Katie's being a mean drunk. It's like, it's frustrating because drinking problem it's a pretty serious accusation to make.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I don't have a drinking problem. I mean, like, for what it's worth, I think collectively I drink far less and far less frequently than majority of the people on the show. Just some days when I'm, we've been drinking all day long, and then it's like, all right, now we got to have this conversation. That's what I'm saying. These are still my feelings regardless. Of course, like, I'm like, my inhibitions, my logic, logic's, exactly. I've been lowered. So yeah, it's more aggressive than it would be if I had woken up from a nap.
Sure.
But
I don't know. When I wake up from a nap, that's probably a bad time to discuss anything with me.
Yeah, you do get very angry.
Okay, fine.
It's not a good time for me. But I'm just saying personally. That may not be different for you.
I can wake up after 8 blissful hours and just feel rejuvenated, and I still will have the same feelings towards somebody. So it's not about the alcohol making me mean. It's about the delivery, and that's something I'm obviously aware of, and I would mostly abstain from having conversations after drinking for an entire evening, but that's not really the nature when we're trying to film a TV show either.
Well, and that's fairly well evidenced in the scene where Sandoval is taking you aside and talking to you about whether or not you and Schwartz need to have therapy in the middle of the bachelorette party in New Orleans, where there's no way anyone is even remotely sober.
Actually, when he came and talked to me, I was actually sober. It was
you were defying New Orleans, yeah.
No, do you ever?
I don't believe that.
Do you ever have those times where like you're like drinking and you're doing shots and stuff like that, but like you never even really catch a buzz? Does that ever happen to you?
I know what you mean. It's sometimes adrenaline can cut through.
It's probably like lack of sleep or something like that, but we were taking some shots and having some drinks, but like I was still like very much with it. I got upset because I know Sandoval was coming from a good place.
Yeah.
And it's no offense to him, but I'm not really going to take relationship advice from really any of my friends on the show for that matter. Just because it's like, I don't really think that they have any real ground to stand on.
Yeah.
You know, even though they're my friends and I love them and their opinions do matter to me, but they're not ones I really take too much to heart just because, you know, they're not perfect as they are as well. And also it wasn't really the time or place to talk about it. And also I'm aware of like the fact that Tom and I weren't in the best place and we have our issues and that's for us to work out and deal with, but that's not something we were looking to address and deal with in New Orleans. It also wasn't, you know, necessarily like a make or break situation.
Right. Like we got to get through this. If we don't get through this trip, it's over.
Or even deal with it all when you're filming.
We deal with a lot on camera, but then there's a lot of stuff that we do have to talk about off camera. I mean, it's just, it's more than one conversation. And as much as we do share pretty much everything on the show, like there are, you know, behind closed doors moments and conversations that happen. And that's kind of where Tom and I were at with that. Again, I knew Sandoval was coming from a good place, but I was just like, bro, really not the time. And I don't, I don't really need someone to put the mirror in front of my face that I've already been reflecting into for some time.
Right.
I'm fully aware. And also, you know, if we're going to open up Pandora's box about relationships, you don't have a perfect relationship either.
Yeah. And then you don't want to get into that discussion in the middle of the party in New Orleans.
Of course not. I just wanted to have fun. I was like, yo, bitch just wants to catch a buzz.
Sandoval seemed to borrow some of Schwartz's timing, actually, in that moment. Because we always think that Schwartz is coming from a good place a lot of times, but then he has trouble discerning the right time.
Gauging. Yeah, like he comes in, he's like, no, that's not what he's saying. I'm like, you weren't even there.
Yeah.
You weren't here 5 seconds ago, so you don't even know what just happened.
I know. He doesn't want to have any problems at all, but that's what happens when you don't deal with anything. And I know a lot of couples have that. But then when you get drunk together and your emotions aren't resolved, they're just going to come out again.
They're going to come out.
Tomorrow. They'll keep popping their head up and bring sorrow. I have to say, though, in terms of advice, despite Sheena and Shay's relationship and how we know it turns out, at the pool party, when she advises Tom to just sort of say, look, whoever's right, whoever's wrong, you have to go over and give a kiss and a hug and say, I'm sorry, and try to just make the moment better and not just sort of be like, I'm not dealing with that. I've tried everything. She actually surprised me because I've sort of been not too keen on a lot of things Sheena said this year, but that really struck me as valid.
And not just because it was in support of me or something that I wanted to hear, air quotes over that, but no, rather that's the truth. And I've told Tom, my friends have told Tom, like, they're like, if Katie's are upset and you really want to like disarm her a little bit and help kind of like calm her or her nerves or, you know, just sort of cater to her feelings.
Sure.
It's simply about just putting your arm around me. And that's the kind of emotional support and having my back that I've been talking to Tom about for so long, that it's not about coming in and kind of getting in my corner and fighting people for me. It's about just being there for me as an emotional support and having my back in that sense. And so Sheena was not wrong in that. And, you know, I think Tom reluctantly tried to listen to her, but it was just, I was just, you know, I know when all that was going on, I was extremely stressed out. I mean, planning a wedding in 12 weeks and, you know, working and filming a show and just life in general. I mean, I was spread very thin and I was just tightly wound so much that it took just something small just to like really set me off. And so there was just a lot of that going on and, you know, a lot of insecurities that were sort of surfacing that, you know, I had been kind of keeping at bay as well.
Right, because you were too busy to... Well, also you're busy and then when you're afraid and you're underslept and there's all this activity going on. Because I think you guys do kind of like a 6-day-a-week shooting schedule.
I mean, it feels like 8 days a week. It's basically nonstop. I mean, I joke with people that between film schedule and work and life that I barely have time to like eat or shit or sleep for that matter. And so yeah, and then you introduce alcohol into that, and you're just basically the most fragile being there ever was, and it just takes a tiny little tap and you explode.
Sure.
Oh, totally.
It's like a shaken, bottle of club soda.
And a pool party, always stressful. Will the tacos get in the pool?
Oh, those tacos are so good.
Well, I love Tom's pink moo-moo when he got to the party.
Yeah, his I've given up moo-moo. Yeah, the moo-moo was quite a look.
I mean, I totally understand him making a joke about the issues and problems and like a day after a fight that you two have. And he'll go talk to the guys and kind of make a joke about it. But then it's always it's on camera, number one, when the problem's still happening. And then it's always right before, like, you're all going to party together, which kind of just sets the tone again in a bad way.
Yeah. And it's also always Tom trying to sort of like play down something or maybe not play down or
I think characterize it as
thank
being
you.
the aggressor. Sure.
Oh yeah, Tequila Katie's back, and it's just that's another source of frustration for me because it's just and even if you talk to anyone, it's like Tequila Katie is not necessarily always bad.
Right. Tequila Katie can be good too.
Tequila Katie can be fun for sure. Yeah, no. I mean that's just the thing. It's just that because of the past and let's say a reputation that I've had of having some, bad drunken nights, that it's just easiest for people just to call it, oh, she's just Tequila Katie. She's just mean drunk. When she gets drunk, she's mean. I'm like, I can be really mean sober too. Do you want to see? Do you really want to see? Do you want to keep telling me that? And then I'll show you. Like, and
sober Katie. Yeah.
But that's the kind of that's what fires me up is when I'm sort of being put in a light that is not accurate, and I know this person knows it's not accurate, but they're saying it anyway because they can get away with saying it because, oh, well, it's happened before, so this just must be another case of it.
We all know that this is how she acts, like that kind of thing.
Wait, if you think about it, like anytime anybody, like any listener, you've had something similar happen, like as if you wouldn't defend yourself. Like if the other person's wrong and they're telling the wrong side of the story and making you look like shit, why wouldn't you try your best to show everybody what the truth was?
That's something else that people are coming down on. They're like, why? What is this that you keep talking about? Like, oh, your truth. I'm like, because I have a truth. And it's not to say like blame editing or say that our show is fake or anything like that. I won't discredit or say anything like that because I fucking wish the show was fake sometimes. Like I wish it was, and that's not the case. But it's impossible to show every second and minute of every conversation and every side to every story. So while I'll say, like, I feel like my side of the story a lot of times feels kind of like silenced a little bit. It's not because it's fake. It's not because of anything. It's just
the nature of the beast. It's not going to get.
It's 100. It's 100%. I'm like, I don't go around crying like, oh, make me look good. I want a good edit. I want good this. I mean, enough stuff has happened that I'm clearly not concerned with like getting the good edit or looking like the good guy. I just am more concerned with just like it all being out there. And so I've been trying to say that there's more to the story, and there's three sides to every story. There's that person's side, the other person's side, and the truth. So
you don't want the Lala edit?
No, because I don't think I would feel right about that. I think because I'm definitely at fault a lot of times, and I mess up and I say mean things, and I'm definitely an instigator and the bad guy in a lot of situations. But at the other end of that, there's someone provoking me at times. Like it's not always, completely unprovoked and I'm just like drunk and acting out. Like, no, there's legitimate things that happen on camera, off camera, that all contribute to why I say and do the things that I do.
Sure.
I think it's good because you're truthful and genuine about it. Obviously, you regret rage texting and you have a part of things, but that's say, like, for example, that's not something that Sheena would do, even if maybe she has. I know she's apologized a bunch and not everything's captured on camera. It just seems like it's all her just off-putting everything on, oh, no, I'm sorry, but oh, no, I'm not going to excuse or change my behavior, what I've done. And, oh, you're just a mean drunk and you do these things. Like, it's just gaslighting over and over again.
Yeah, the gaslighting was a big thing just because I've been a little caught off guard. I was aware that Sheena was saying certain things about me and wasn't particularly happy with me. And not understanding why even when it was happening, but then watching now the season and seeing like really all the stuff she was saying and not understanding where that was coming from. And there was a solid 8 months where, you know, me and Kristen and Stassi and Sheena and Rachel and whoever else, we'd all hang out and we were all like this like big group of girlfriends. And sometimes it'd be all of us, sometimes it'd just be a few of us, and whatever kind of combinations you can make from that group. And it was great. There was never a problem. And then it was just all of a sudden, Sheena just kind of sort of putting a wedge between us, and we didn't know why. And she started being like, oh, well, it's just the three of you. And we're like, since when?
Right.
It's like, what, 4 years ago? Like, no, like this, like we haven't gone through everything and done all this just to go back to that. Like, we're not reliving that again. We're not repeating history. Like, and that's why we've pulled her aside and had so many conversations with her just to let her know how much we love her and how much we regret wasting time, and how we were so happy to finally come together and be this great group of girlfriends. That, you know, I felt like that was a choice that Sheena made to sort of, I don't know if it was an insecurity thing. I don't know. I've been trying to figure out exactly what it is, because nothing I've done or said or any of the other girls has really warranted that kind of response from Sheena. And so for her to just kind of victimize herself consistently and put it on me like I hate her, when in the last episode at Pandora's, when she, you know, got so upset with me and ran to the bathroom and was like crying and saying that she hates me. I'm just like, at what point did I say that I hated you? Like,
right.
And it's like all about me, and it's all about, everything's about me, and I can say and do what I want, and I don't need to, there's no consequences. I'm like, what was I saying or doing that I didn't think that there was consequences for, because I was being honest with you?
Right.
That's the one thing I'll say is, like, people can call me a tyrant, they can call me a bridezilla or whatever, but basically I was trying to do this entire summer was just be in a real place with people where there was no question marks about what I thought or felt about someone. That basically, however I was feeling, whatever I was thinking, I was just going to let you know, because I feel like I'm doing a disservice to someone. I'm being deceitful to my best friend by not telling them how they're affecting me. Right.
Or your feelings about them at the moment.
Yeah. And of course, like when I say, you know, on camera something like, oh, well, it's like my wedding season, of course I don't want this kind of stuff, then, and that's only part of the show. So it looks like it's like making all about that. But if I'm a bridezilla and a tyrant for wanting my friends to get along and the dynamic to be just solid between everyone, just to make the wedding even that more enjoyable, then call me a bridezilla, because I don't know who in the right mind wouldn't want to strive for, you know, peace and calm within their group of friends, especially, you know, under the kind of stress I was in. It just was more, you know, comforting to know that people were actually trying to give each other a chance.
Right.
But I'm a tyrant for that.
This segment brought to you by Love Bracelets, the chilling new film from legendary director Randall Kleiser, starring Poot Lovato as Blah Blah, a girl who has to invent a decoy boyfriend to throw the world off the scent of her married sugar daddy, a paranoid and highly litigious executive who calls the shots for his company and for his girl. Original score by Triumph's Rick Emmett, co-starring Randall Battenkoff as Blah Blah's DJ friend Jimmy. Love Bracelets. You'll cry your eyes out from laughing your head off. Love Bracelets, coming this spring to Shudder.
When it came to like the Lala stuff with the whole like sit down and trying to make peace between us, like I'm just wondering at what point Ariana thought that was productive or a good idea or in the least bit respectful to me. It's not like her and Lala had this like long time friendship and this rapport, and I was part of all that, and Ariana just was longing for the old days and for things to be normal again. I mean, her and Lala, they kind of struck up a friendship out of thin air for all I know. So for her to kind of be orchestrating that really, really got to me, because, you know, I had a really close friendship with Kristen for many years, and Chris and I had spent 2 years not being friends. Mm-hmm. And that's during a time when Ariana and I got close. And then when Chris and I sort of began to reconcile, that was sort of when Ariana and I stopped being as close. And I would hate to think that me making a decision to, you know, reconcile with a longtime close friend had anything to do with it, but, you know, probably did. But I never once, for the benefit of myself or for the show or anything, tried to orchestrate any kind of reconciliation between Kristen and Ariana, because I knew that was never going to happen, because I knew how Ariana felt, and even as willing as Kristen was, I just knew that I would never disrespect my friend Ariana by even trying to ignore or be ignorant to the fact that this is just not something that she would ever be interested in. So I just kind of always kind of kept it separate. And Kristen knew and respected that, and she never would be upset about me being friends with Ariana. Like, she understood all that. So I had a really hard time understanding what Ariana was doing during those times, that, you know, trying to bring us, me and Lala, together. And I'm just like, what? Like, this feels very weird, just because, you know, last summer you didn't like her either.
Well, we chatted to Ariana about how when someone apologized to you, are you obligated to accept the apology? And she agreed, you're not.
And I think she never said I should accept Lala's apology. Right. It wasn't about that. It was just about the fact that she would even bring me and Lala together to try to make things right. Like,
and I love her, but I think that action, trying to make peace, I think really how that comes across is her being dismissive, that people actually have really feelings about this, as if it's like, why can't you just forget what happened? I'm like, when somebody has been personally attacking you and you have to defend yourself, it's just being, you know, not very kind about it. And it's not going to work out that way. It's just like, you didn't want to get involved in her and Kristen because you knew, like, that's not going to work out.
Yeah, and I knew her feelings, and I respect. That's the thing, is it just boils down to respect of someone's feelings. You know, Ariana knew what Lala was saying. She knew that Lala was literally antagonizing me for months and months and months on any podcast or any media that would listen to her. I became the topic of her conversation. So it's funny that she goes around talking about how all of us only talk about her.
Well, she got another person who, same bullshit. She got mad that she got exposed. And so when someone like that gets exposed and they can't control their image, then they freak the fuck out on the other people.
No, it's just, I was going to think like, oh, you guys just are like bored bitches. You must not have lives because all you do is talk about Lala and all that. I'm like, well, on the show, because I'm doing my job. I'm like, this is what our job is to talk about the people on the show and what the hell is going on.
And to bleed out, like we say.
In the same way
time.
you do. You talk about it, so it's fine. I don't care about what she says on the show. I had a problem with what she was saying with me to press and all that. That was very unprovoked. The last time I had seen her was my engagement party, when she acted like a fucking drunken fool. That was the last time I'd seen her and had any interaction with her. And then I'm hearing all this disgusting, rank stuff that she's going around saying about me and Tom, and it's just, I didn't acknowledge it.
Right. Just to clarify, you never once responded or quote unquote retaliated during that entire time between seasons.
I didn't get it, and I just kept I get like Google alerts about stuff, so I'll see like headlines for whatever the, you know, story is that they're saying, or people will tweet me stuff.
GossipTrashMag.com.
Someone, I mean, it's not really hard for someone to tell me what's going on or being said. So yeah, hearing all the stuff, especially just talking about my body, my image, my relationship, my fiance, his dick size, our imminent divorce, was pretty disgusting.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know if it was just because she was watching the show and she didn't know what she had signed up for, and she was like all of a sudden like, oh my God, they're really mean about me. So going back to with like Ariana and stuff like with her and Tom, that they both tried to kind of throw in my face, basically saying like, well, whenever I try to bring up, well, what is this whole like defense about Lala, especially to me, like at my bridal shower or just in general, like I don't get that. And, you know, they both were like, well, you said stuff about her. I'm like, yeah, and so did you guys. The same stuff. We said it on camera. Like, I didn't go to, you know, Jenny McCarthy podcast or whatever other garbage outlet that there is out there to talk about this person's life. Like, I only would talk about it when we're filming.
Right.
Other than that, like, I have no interest in talking, you know, so I'm like, that's such a moot point to bring up to me and insulting. Like, oh, well, you didn't like this. Did you not ask her about her trips and her, you know, how many blowjobs? And I'm like, well, kind of, but not really. Like,
it's a false equivalence. It's not an accurate bit of math.
Yeah. So it's just that whole weird dynamic that they have, or that weird attitude they have towards that, just has confused me to the core.
I like also that Lala didn't really know. I don't know. She must have been confused as to who she was on the show with and what the parameters of the show are. When her and James come up and start insulting you guys at the OK Magazine party, I kept wondering, did she see the season where we found out that Jax and Kristen had sex together? Because, you know, the reason we know that is because Katie was getting yelled at about being this or that. And then something to the effect of, you're like, oh yeah, really? I'm a bad person? Hey, guess what? Jax fucked Kristen.
Well, that's the thing. Like, because I hadn't acknowledged any of her things that she was saying. So yeah, it's the first time I see this person, and the first words out of her mouth to me were, you know, about my body and weight gain. And so I thought, I was like, all right, well, you know what? I've really been cool about everything you've been saying, but fuck this. The gloves,
and we're filming.
The gloves are, now I actually have an obligation to address this shit. So guess what? If you're going to talk about my relationship, my life, what my personal life, my real life, as she likes to call it, because apparently she don't live her life on the show like the rest of us do. She's got a whole secret life. Well, then let's talk about your life, because you signed up for this shit. So hi. And she didn't like that.
To the point that, and she is, I think, had gone into this on an interview, she tried to quit on the spot right then because she got real freaked out, realized that, oops, she was playing with fire. And she had said that she like ripped her mic pack off, tried to quit. The producers were like telling her not to, asking her not to. But to me, she then at that moment realized, oh shit, I fucked up bad.
Yeah, I saw her take her mic pack off. She like ran away a couple times, I remember. But I remember one time her specifically getting up and kind of going to one of our camera guys and like kind of grabbing the camera and like kind of throwing, not throwing it down, but just like out of her face. And that's like
the worst thing you could do.
A big, big no-no.
Yeah.
Like, our crew is amazing. A lot of them have been with us from the beginning or for, you know, the last few years. And that's just really disrespectful to do.
Dangerous too, because they're not able to see what's around them because their eye is on the thing they're focused on.
Yeah, and it's just like, don't disrespect their equipment and their job and what they're doing. Like, they're just the eyes in the sky, more or less. We love our crew and our production so much, and no matter what happens, we never take it out on them or they're, you know, I mean, I think there's been maybe at one point majority of us that have taken a mic back off and like thrown it down or something, but like never taken a camera and like chucked it out of our face or anything.
No, that's some like VH1 reality shit. Well, they don't want to show her mad. I mean, because she's not the bully, so no, she's just being picked on. She's upset.
That's right. Yeah,
she's just the trampled little flower.
Well, I like that they did show Lisa saying, well, you know, you can't just start a fire and then act like little innocent baby girl.
Well, I mean, that's what she was doing the whole time. Like, that's, I mean, because of her words and the things that she had gotten said mostly about me weren't captured on camera, that in her mind she thought they just didn't exist.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, they don't live on the show. Like, unless people do some digging, go listen or read some stuff, they don't know about it, but it's still out there. But she just doesn't consider that, or, you know, and she gave me some kind of like blanket sort of apology at the beginning of the season, mostly because I feel like she felt like, well, I got to film a show. I feel like it was more like her just kind of like doing her due diligence
to make sure she was maintaining on the show.
Yeah, and that's the only reason why she kind of even offered me an apology, because she didn't reference what she apologized for. She's like, yeah, I know, I'm sorry for saying those things. It's like, well,
why would you let this person back in who's been,
attacking
fake and just wants to be, on the show and make everything okay?
The first moment I started to resist, she just started getting mean towards me again.
Right,
and
like, how dare you not take my apology?
Yeah, I mean, she's just because she wasn't sorry. And so I was kind of calling her out on that. I mean, that's kind of like the same thing I was saying this episode to Sheena. I'm just like, well, I'm going to call someone out if I smell bullshit. I'm going to say if I smell it.
Yeah.
Her and everyone else's sort of claims that I never liked her from the minute she stepped foot in SUR is just complete, also other bullshit. When she first started at SUR and I met her briefly, and then we all went to drinks at Surly Goat. There was a bit of that on the show, but there was also a lot more conversation that happened after, because that's when Lala first told me that she had gotten this like modeling gig in Italy, and she's like, I don't know what to do. Diana wants to put me on the schedule. And so I was just trying to talk to her and be like, no, like what's really great at SUR, like the managers and everyone, they're very supportive of our other endeavors. Like they want us to be able to pursue those things. And I told her that, like, when I was supposed to start my first actual shift on the floor after training for a couple weeks, I ended up in like ICU, and they held my job for me for like almost 2 months. So I was like, no, by all means, like they absolutely will. Just tell them like you booked this, and like it won't be a problem. Like, but go, you got to do it. And I was just like giving her advice and kind of telling her how to handle it and being supportive. And when I found out that wasn't the case, I felt like here's somebody I extended myself to who was just bull-faced and lying to me. That's when I started to like get the chip on my shoulder and have an issue, because like my main thing with people is like people being solid and trustworthy. And whether or not she owed it to me or whether I deserved her truth or whatnot, I was extending myself to someone who I thought was being genuine with me and being earnest, and she wasn't. So that's where it came from. So yeah, for when Sandoval and Ariana at my bridal shower, and I was accusing me like, well, you said stuff about her at the beginning. Well, so did you, Ariana. But I think I had a reason to. And then Sandoval in this episode brings up to me too, well, Katie, when she first came to SUR, like, were you not asking her questions about Italy? Well, yeah, of course I was, because she told me it was a modeling job, and I was trying to like help her out. And do her a solid and encourage her and tell her it was going to be okay. And she was lying to me, and you felt the same way. So what is your angle here? Right. To try to like gaslight me into things like when you were the same. Like, you were the same. You didn't trust this person either, because you were there. Like, Sandoval was actually involved in that conversation too with Lala at Surly Go when she was initially talking about her Italy modeling jobs. And, but then even after that, like, bringing up the whole top off in Hawaii thing, like, well, that's something that everyone that was there during that day came to me when they got back to the hotel and told me about. So, of course, I was going to bring that up. And everyone was getting all crazy, like, oh, well, she wasn't the only one. What about Faith? Well, I was actually talking to Faith about it initially, and Faith was very like sympathetic and I didn't need an apology, but she was like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, I didn't even think about that. Like, yeah, no, you're right, that's weird. And then Lala was like, what are you guys talking about? And then I was like, oh, just about you taking your top off. And so that's how it all spiraled in. But like, I of course addressed it with Faith. Like, initially she was sitting right next to me, and then Lala jumped in, and that became a whole slut shaming attack, because I should not question someone's integrity or character for exposing themselves in a public place, right? Because that's considered slut shaming apparently, and that also means that I'm a prude and insecure and all this stuff. So whatever. I
thought a lot of the reaction from people saying that, well, whatever happens, Katie slut shamed her, was a bit arch, because I don't really think that was slut shaming, and I could be wrong. But also, I feel like the issues you had with her being secretive about her private life had nothing to do with whether or not she's sleeping with a bunch of different people or sleeping with anyone at all. More about the fact that everyone on the show, as Stassi pointed out in her note that she tweeted out a couple weeks ago, everyone on the show bleeds out for the show. And when you have someone there who's enjoying all the benefits of being on the show without actually sacrificing what everyone else has to sacrifice, it breeds enmity.
Mm-hmm. I saw that Lala had responded to that saying like, well, apparently the network thought that the show needed new people and that's why I was there. And I'm like, yeah, 100%. Of course. Like, it's always great to introduce new people. Sure. That's not the problem. It's just when people don't want to be their authentic self and open their lives up to things. And,
right.
She continues to talk about how the show, which is supposed to be about our lives and our reality that we live in, she keeps referring to as affecting her real life. Right. And I just feel like that's such a crazy conflict of interest and counterproductive to what we're all doing on this show. Like, I don't know what she thought she was signing up for. I understand, like, did my brother and my parents sign up for this? No. Therefore, like, they don't need to expose their lives.
Right.
And, Stassi had a boyfriend. He didn't sign up for the show. Stassi did. He didn't want to expose it, but that didn't really work out so well.
To that, in this episode, the premise that Patrick didn't want to be at group gatherings, which I read as be on the show, was because of Jax. Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, Stassi confirms that. Mm-hmm. Like, she said, and I know this, that, like, yeah, Patrick, it was very much about him not wanting to ever acknowledge Jax face to face in any kind of cordial, like he wouldn't be able to. And he's also not like, Patrick's not the kind of guy that's gonna come and like gonna fight the guy.
Yeah, right.
But no, he did not want to ever have to confront Jax and like try to like be like cool and like say what's up to him, knowing everything that has happened with him and Stassi.
Right.
And I understand that, but when it came down to it affecting Stassi's life and her friendships, that's when he maybe could have made some exceptions.
Sure.
But he just didn't. And it wasn't just about the show or the group of friends. It was, there was things between the two of them that were sort of coming to a head. But
right, that wasn't the central engine that drove the train into disaster.
That was certainly the big reason why he never wanted to be on the show. But then again, it wasn't necessarily like he didn't necessarily have to be on the show and meet Jax.
Sure, that's true. There could have been a scene where they're off having dinner or...
And that's kind of, what issues transpired as well.
I remember after one episode, it might have been the fight with Sheena at that double birthday party. Somebody or a couple people have tweeted something awful at Stassi, like, why don't you just commit suicide or kill yourself or something, which shook her up. And then I remember seeing on Lala's Twitter, she shared the suicide hotline number. I think obviously very pointed, know who the fuck she's talking about. And then she had to counter it. Yeah, and then somebody was like, "Oh, what's that for?" And she's like, "Oh, this is just like for a friend, family friend that I know like committed suicide, and just want to put this out to help people." I'm like, that's not what it was. And if anybody still thinks she's a good person for doing that,
even know that.
I mean, she's just as bad as all those nasty trolls on the internet.
Well, she's a super fan of the show, which we saw. She just loved to post about the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Lala rules. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I had to address it.
Yeah, of course.
And I did, especially just to kind of wrap it up.
Yeah.
Because Lala's gone now, so just to wrap everything up and finally, get my final, testimony on the whole Lala, whatever you want to call it. Just
era.
Just set the record straight that, yep. Anyways.
We forgot to say blah blah though.
Oh yeah.
It's been a while since I've really talked about her, so I forgot about blah blah.
No, it's nice because she's not on the show.
It's wonderful forgetting about pests. I did like that Sheena referred to Lala as blah blah on camera. That was great.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I first started.
Of course. Well, we all.
I got it from you.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, just it was too perfect.
This segment brought to you by Kingsley Devil Dog 2. Starring Jax Taylor and Brittany Cartwright as the on-again, off-again couple who think they've found the distraction that will make the relationship work by giving a cute little angel a forever home. What they don't know is that the demon dog that terrorized the Kim Richards household before finding heaven on a farm has been reborn as a seemingly harmless Yorkie. Kingsley Devil Dog 2 will bite your niece and maul your trainer. Kingsley Devil Dog 2. Not even Maurizio can save you this time. Kingsley's Devil Dog 2. Coming to a rec center near you.
I did let Jax in on a few of those Easter eggs in their apartment, though.
But not all of them. I don't think they've seen them.
No,
so for listeners, we talked about it on the last episode, but we didn't really, I think, get into specifically what it is. Before they painted, and maybe we did talk about it. So
even after they painted.
Yeah, because the workers were coming in and out because they were doing the floor, but then, so the door had to be open because they hadn't moved their belongings in yet. So every time there would be like a gathering of friends upstairs and partying, everyone's like, oh, wait, let's go vandalize. And who has all the Sharpies?
We vandalized, trolled the shit out of their place. but inconspicuous places. Like,
Except you drew dicks everywhere, but then you drew a giant dick right. There's like a little fitted area where the new fridge is going to go and a giant one right above it. But we were there and they're like, we've seen that, but they were laughing at everything.
But there's also some really obvious ones that they have not seen. Like their light bulb fixture ones. I
showed that to Chris, and I was like, I showed this and that.
I basically showed Brittany all the stuff and like, not all of it, but some of the stuff in Jax's man cave and all of that. I'm like, no, but they're Easter eggs, so you're supposed to just find them and smile.
That's right. They're meant for future happiness. You don't want to see them all in one go.
Well, I want them to get him on camera finding them, but even though he's already found some, I wrote "Who is Gandhi" in the man cave.
And then we did something about sheet girls, I think, on the underside of the shelf in the closet in the main bedroom.
That's off limits. It's mostly just the man cave area, which is just destroyed with pictures of dicks.
I wrote, like, when you're at their sink, if you look underneath their cabinet thing right there, I wrote interior motive.
That's a good one. There's a few, I know, in the cabinets in the bathroom, like deep.
They're all over. I think on the underside of a toilet seat, I did something. No, they're literally every conspicuous corner, like every
nook and cranny,
there's a dick.
The best is Kristen started that, and there's like a little cubby shelving area in the man cave room, and she just got down and underneath like everything, and she drew her dick, and she was like, fuck you Jax, you suck,
she was like Brittany's better. Yeah, I said that.
Ariana and Stassi have a few flare-ups this season, one of which being at the joint birthday party, which was allegedly a surprise party, and
we did the best we could. There was really no way to get people to Long Beach without enticing them somehow.
Sure. At least they hopefully still thought it was a surprise for the other guy.
Well, there were surprises there because Carter's like family ended up being there, and they were like, his parents were about to move to like Georgia or something, and so he thought he'd seen them for the last time, and then he saw them, and so I think the people that were there were like the surprise element of everything. I mean, they both knew that they were going to a party, so I mean,
they brought ice.
Exactly. Yeah. And sending Schwartz with them as like the decoy is perfect because Schwartz doesn't want to talk about nothing.
Yeah, he's not going to spill the secret. He didn't even want to think about it.
I know.
A few times this season, we've gotten concerned that he's going to dig a hole in his scalp. Actually, at Paint and Sip in particular, he's really uncomfortable.
That was very uncomfortable.
When he brings it up, he's like, so guys, everything's fine. Everything's okay, right? And then like, no, it's not okay because it wasn't fucking dealt with. Everything's not going to be okay just because you said it.
Yeah, that's...
brush it under the rug.
That's also been a big social media sort of...
hot potato.
People have been raining down on me for that because, I do say things like fall in line or something like that, but it's not about like follow my rule. I'm really not running around with an iron fist trying to like get people just to like think and act the way I do. And the only reason why I ever say like it's our wedding is just to send a friendly reminder to our friends who kind of can be selfish at times that guess what, like you're also your two of your best friends are getting married, so let's just try to keep the peace.
Right.
And so I'd say on the show a billion times like, I didn't ask Ariana to be a bridesmaid for a reason. Well, I didn't ask her to be bridesmaid for a reason because I know that she doesn't particularly like or get along with my bridesmaids and the people that I wanted to. So yeah, that was me just kind of doing damage control earlier on, and not shooting myself in the foot. And yeah, Ariana did say to one of our friends that she would be relieved if I didn't ask her. So that was a good,
worked out for everyone.
It worked out for everyone. But yeah, the stuff with Stassi and at like my bridal show, I mean, yeah, Stassi did kind of like overextend herself and saying like, Katie doesn't want you here. That's not the case. Like, yeah, I didn't ask her to be a bridesmaid for this very reason, but it wasn't to exclude Ariana from everything. And that's why you didn't see it on the show. You saw like a flashback, like little scene when Tom told me that he was going to ask Ariana to be a groomsman.
Right.
And my reaction, like you saw on the show, wasn't my actual reaction. I was just like, oh, I think that's a really good idea. So for everyone that thinks that Tom went
rogue
behind my back and went rogue to include Ariana, like, no, I was actually like on board with that because, you know, I wasn't going to suggest that to Schwartz. That hadn't occurred to me, but the fact that he came up with on his own, I thought was really nice. They have a friendship, they're close, and it makes sense. So there was never to leave her out. I wanted to include her, hence why I invited her to my bridal shower.
Right.
I invited her to the thing at Pandora's because I just, you know, she's my friend and I didn't want to disclude her to like, well, you're not a groomsman, so you can't come. And the only reason why I said at the paint and sip, well, I need all the girls to get along because if the boys are going to go do their thing and the girls are going to do their thing, it's got to get along. And then Sandoval had some comment about like, well, she's a groomsman, so why wouldn't she? I'm like, well, because Tom told me that he just wanted to be dudes at his, you know, sorry that he didn't want someone's girlfriend. You know, I mean, not that they're going to get
with her boyfriend.
With her boy, I mean, Tom had said that to me, and so when I mentioned that, he kind of went back on that, like, oh no, she can hang out. Of course he did, and I'm like, okay, cool. Bottom line, it was a joint bachelorette, and so I said to him, which he then poorly reported back to Sandoval as if it was like I meant it, like, well, you know, if Ariana can't get along with these people and she doesn't like this person, then why does she want to come? She doesn't even come to the Bachelorette. If she like hates like 90% of the people that are there, there's no reason for that. And you know, and then I'm just defending like the words that Tom repeated that came from, because I love how people were always like, oh, then Katie texts me this, and they put this like sort of like negative connotation next to it. I'm just like, that wasn't rage. That was someone being very direct with you. What's
the deal with the fights that are caused by Schwartz's defense of Sandoval and Ariana? We sort of get into that a little bit in the episodes, but it feels like there's a lot of stuff going on between the four of you.
I don't blame Tom and Ariana solely for Tom and I's fights, but he is always very quick to defend the two of them. And it, you know, it used to just be like Tom and or Sandoval and Jax, and now it's extended to Ariana, and that's when it really started to wear on me, because I'm like, well, now you're putting another woman's feelings above mine, and I talk about that, and it just, you know, as much as like Ariana's my friend and I shouldn't have those feelings of insecurity, like it definitely like did really get to me and eat away at me. But it's really hard because Tom doesn't like conflict in his friends. Like, he never fights with his friends. He always is saying like, you're always in a fight with someone, you're always in a fight with... I'm like, no, I'm always discussing things with people. Or yeah, sometimes there's conflict, but there's always a resolution that happens. But he is very
averse
to any kind of conflict and any kind of confrontation, period. Like, he can't deal with it. And I would come to him and be like, well, you know, then the Ariana was at the bridal shower and she was like defending Lala, and he's like, no, without even hearing me out and him not even being there to witness what was happening. He was already kind of drawing conclusions and blaming me for everything. And so that causes us to fight. So I'm like, okay, well, cool. So if I didn't have these conflicts with our friends and he wasn't so quick to like defend some of them, like, I feel like we wouldn't really be getting in these fights. You know, that is kind of like the hard thing of like sharing like all of our friends or both of our friends, you know, like it's really hard. I'm really trying to articulate this properly.
Sure. Well, take your time and then
I just want to articulate properly how the fights happen. I think it's just because I'm in the relationship with Tom. People always say that, you know, you're always the hardest or the meanest or the cruelest, the people that are closest to you. And because I am the closest to Tom, I feel like he's going to take all of that out on me. And he's always very quick to jump to someone else's defense. And that's a source of our frustration, especially because it comes to our friends.
Sure.
So yeah, if there's any kind of conflict with any of our friends or his, and I have an issue and I'm talking about it, rather than him just listening to me, just offering me just that emotional support, he starts defending people.
Right.
So,
and that triggers,
and that's especially when it comes to our friends. So then that triggers arguments. So yeah. So the fact that like Ariana and Stassi couldn't get along, and it was affecting me just because it was like one of my friends, one of Tom's groomsmen, and one of my bridesmaids, and one of my best friends, that of course I was going to be affected by that. And it just caused fights between us.
Yeah.
Like that's not the only reason we fight.
Sure.
But it was such an unnecessary source or unnecessary catalyst that we had for so many arguments that should not have been happening. And that's the only reason why I text Tom and Ariana. I was like, look, I understand you don't like this person, but it's like you guys having issues with this person fighting at my bridal shower and the paint and sip, and then I come home and I'm affected by it and I'm talking to Tom and then we fight about that. So if you could just swallow pride, just apologize, or just try to get along, or just not make little like snide remarks, that'd be really great. But unfortunately, it sounded like get over your fucking selves. But but that's what that's ultimately what I meant by that. It's just like, listen, like if you love Tom, even if you love him more than me, but if you love me even the slightest or not, just like please understand that this is having a negative effect on us. Like your inability, your unwillingness to try to make peace with people or get along or apologize or just whatever it would fucking take. If you care about us this much, then do this for us. I'm asking you on the behalf of both of us, because you not doing this is making us resent each other. Right. It's not blaming them. It's just letting them know, like, hey,
this is one of the factors.
Your guys' attitudes, I have a problem with, and I can't shake that. And you're not willing to let go of it, but now I'm affected by it, and it's affecting my relationship.
And it's obvious that Sandoval, he's very close with Schwartz, obviously, but Schwartz will tell his side of the story of what happened, making it like you're the sole person responsible for the fights. And so Sandoval believes that. And so when he's talking with you, I think he has a grasp of what's going on, but still goes back to, well, you have to get this figured out, but like you have to stop doing these things. And I don't think that Sandoval realizes that Tom, he's also at fault.
And that it takes two to tango.
That's what I was trying to say. And like, I always get frustrated, Tom. I'm like, you don't understand. Like, yeah, it takes two to tango. For you to just remove yourself from an equation, like, there's a chemical combustion, or when you combine two chemicals, there's a reaction.
Right.
Me just being like, what, maybe sodium over here? Without my counterpart chemical, I won't have a reaction. Yeah. So you can't always just say like, oh well, she just did, I don't know, she just went crazy. Like that's not valid.
At the pool party when he's in his moo-moo, basically characterizing everything with you guys is that, oh, I've tried everything. But it sounds like you tried everything like one try, which is not really how you fix things, trying one thing. It's like, I tried aromatherapy, herbal therapy, and nothing seems to work, so I'm just with this back pain forever, I guess. That's how it's got to be.
One therapy session.
No, he tried his way, and it didn't work.
Right. And then, again, the time when he goes to the therapist and then comes home and tells you, hey, you know what, I was talking to my therapist, and we both agree, you're the problem. I don't think he was doing it intentionally, but it provoked an explosion. And then after that, he was saying to everyone, I guess I can't voice my displeasure about anything. I can't say a word.
I can't talk about my emotions. You weren't talking about your emotions. You came home and pointed a finger at me. That's not talking about your emotions. Talking about like, well, when you do this, this is how it makes me feel. It was basically like, well, you do this, and this is what you do wrong, and this is what you do wrong, and this is what you do wrong. And like for me, like I'm so receptive to people when they want to come and talk to me in a very constructive way. That's just like, listen, I'm not placing blame, I'm gonna point the finger at you, but like when you respond this way, or when you say this or something, like this is how it makes me feel, and I'm just like, oh shit, yeah, I never would have known that. Thank you for expressing that to me. Like I don't ever want to make you feel that way, but when you come here and say like, we're just this, and then when you do this, like that wasn't talking or expressing your feelings. That was pointing a finger at someone and placing blame. I'm pretty sure that was like the opposite of what she asked him to do when he went to therapy. But I understand Schwartz so much that I can understand why and when and how he says the things that he does. The problem is I don't think he fully understands the reasons why I do and say things that I do. And it's like that, like, you know, disconnect of not being able to, not, you don't need to, I don't agree with him just because I can understand it. I just want to understand it so I know how to counteract it, and I know how to like approach a situation, which is something that I've really worked at doing, and which has helped a lot. He, as you see in this episode, has not quite figured out, and that's why I'm glad that she kind of jumped in. I was like, well, maybe just a hug.
Yeah.
You know, because that's basically what it is. It's just like I just kind of need a hug sometimes,
right,
and that will disarm me.
And you even seemed a little resistant at first because things had gotten to a kind of a fever pitch at the restaurant where he was stress eating those French fries and shutting down on you.
Yeah, because I had only begun to begin talking about what had happened and my feelings about it, and it was just like, and it was like, oh, it's your fault. What did you do? What did you say? What did like? And it's like it was just an immediate shutdown and just like cutting me off in a discount of like everything that I was feeling and saying in that moment. And so my response started being, rather than sit here and getting into a blowout fight, is I removed myself from the situation. Right. And I told him, I'm like, that's like the most productive thing I can do when this happens, is because I don't want to argue about this shit that ultimately doesn't matter, even though it does.
Yeah.
But it's not worth getting in this blow up fight and then saying and rage texting those things I regret saying.
Yeah.
And like that. So my way to like counteract that and not get to that point to hurt his feelings and say the things that I mean and get off track about talking about something that happened with Ariana, and then getting to the point of calling him like a shitty husband and saying I don't want to marry it. Like I don't want to go there anymore.
Right.
My way of extinguishing it is just to remove myself from it.
Right.
But then I still look like the bad guy bitch somehow. I mean, Jesus.
Leaving is probably the best option, much like at the paint store when you take off. It was funny that you left. I mean, in the age of Uber, he wasn't really stranded, but it is a funny thing to drive off and be like, I guess you got to find your own way home, pal.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're going to call me a bitch, then I'll be a bitch. I'm not going to sit here and have you insult me and call me names.
Yeah.
I'm going to remove myself because you don't mean it. And that's the bottom line. It's like, unfortunately, our style of fighting is that we'll start talking about the issue and then we'll both be very combative and our emotions will run really high, and then the logic starts running really low, and then we'll just start saying all these things that we don't mean, and we're just completely off track, and like it's just, and we're doing unnecessary damage and saying things that we can't take back.
Sure.
Which is the worst thing that you can do. So yeah, fuck yeah, I'm gonna leave it and walk away. I mean,
plus you're trying to pick out the right dusty pink, and with that kind of aggro in the air, it's very hard to say princess diaper or dusty pink. I'm not sure which one Lisa's gonna like. God damn it, I'm very stressed out.
Which is because you know what which is funny about that, because I ended up picking out the right shade that she wanted, and we got it, and then she started putting it on the wall, and she thought it was still too dark. So the the guy that was there that was doing like the primer and everything, that she asked him if he had any black paint. She started adding black paint
to it. Doing her own combination
to make it darker and deeper. I'm like, I just spent all this time picking out, and I finally felt so accomplished because I found the right shade. And then but that's just her style. She's,
she's really hands on, right?
Well, you're a bad assistant, obviously.
Well, I mean, that's what I mean. It was kind of like a fight to get Lisa to like relinquish things to me, because she does so much, and she wants to be hands-on with everything, which I admire so much.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to just work in a different proximity with her.
Yeah, sure.
Just to have a little bit of the Vanderpump juju like rub off on me, because I mean, she's goals AF
totally
in my mind. So that was my whole angle with everything. I mean, I don't care if like I was just literally scratching her back. I mean, if I could just like be a fly on the wall and just sort of like see like what's a day in Lisa Vanderpump's life like,
right,
and how she operates exactly, and how she conducts business, because she's 100% hands-on and everything.
Well, isn't there, I think Ariana was saying that there was video of her, like, in jeans, actually doing some of the renovations to Pandora's house before she revealed it to Pandora. So, it's to that extent.
Yeah, because, she definitely, like, hires people to do stuff, but she'll come in and be like, I don't like that. Let me just do it. So, that's what it was like with the paint.
Yeah.
I'm very much that way myself.
Yeah.
Like, I have a hard time sort of delegating to people because I'm always like, well, if I tell someone to do it and then they don't do it right, and then I'm just going to, like, have to do it myself, so I may as well just do it myself to begin with.
Right.
And the whole thing. But it was fun, and it was informative.
How many different Porsches did you test drive or look at?
Well, I test drove the one, which wasn't wasn't the fully loaded one that she ended up getting. But I did get to drive that one from, what was it, like Santa Monica.
Oh, it was out there.
To Beverly Hills.
That's a good long drive.
I know, but
but
it sucked because until I got to, like, the canyon there, I wasn't able to, like, really open it up.
Oh, right.
And hug those curves, give them a nice squeeze.
But thankfully it wasn't just down the street, because that'd be kind of a drag. Be like, yeah, really, it was about a 2-minute drive.
I know, but it was stop and go traffic.
Oh, right. It always is, from Santa Monica to out here.
But I still felt cool. I was, like, looking at people being, like, trying to make eye contact. Be like, what's up? What's up? What's up?
Other moments we see you with Lisa in that role is when you're at the Flower Mart. And I always have this issue with the show when I feel like there's a conversation that has been condensed to the point where it's suffering now because it's been cut down so much. And I just felt that they cut the scene in the Flower Mart to basically have you go, there's just problems, me and Tom, and cut, I'm Tequila Katie and my dark side. And then it went to commercial, or one of the new Rancid songs that they have that's like, I'm at the Flower Mart and I'm crying in the tulips. And
that's what sucks. Sometimes I'm glad that our show is not longer, like
90-minute episodes.
Because then who knows what we'll see. But there, when we were filming these conversations, or I hate to call them scenes because they're not like scenes that you had in the script, but they're like a few hours,
right.
And that could live for anywhere from 0 to like 5 minutes of the show. Like, you never know. Lisa gave me so much advice, and like, she's been married for 34 years.
Right.
Like, who besides my mother, like, who else am I going to talk to about this kind of stuff? And she's definitely become that, like, figure to us because of her closeness with, like, Tom and everything like that. But I hated having to report that stuff to her in the middle of, like, her kind of like me helping her and then her helping me with wedding stuff, and then her just looking at me with such, like, disappointment. And I mean, that was really, really hard because like, it just felt like such, like, a loser, like, failure. And she's like, Katie, you're getting married. I'm like, I know. And it just, she couldn't grasp it or understand why. And I don't blame her because I mean, I had a hard time understanding why, but I was just, trying to get through.
Well, her surface reads sometimes on the fights that are happening between the staff, even though I know she gets briefed on all of them. I think by Ken, because Ken, it was last year, maybe during Pride, he's I know what it was. It was during Pride last year when he figures out who James slept with, who gave him all the bite marks before anyone else. He settles up, he's like, he didn't need this from me, but like, he slept with her. And then he's showing her a phone like as if he has, police evidence. He has a file on his phone. And then he just slips away. He's like, all right, darling, have a good day.
And we always tease her because I'm always like, Lisa, don't act like you don't want to know. You see me all the time. I'm like, you're curious. And she's like, no, I'm not. Okay, but
darling, I don't want to know.
She's like, I don't want to know, but just tell me one thing. And I'm like, you do want to know. You can't help it. Everyone loves a good little gossip.
Who doesn't?
I love my gossip sessions.
And there's such a wellspring of it amongst the gang.
It never ends. That's what I'm saying. Like, 45 minutes is 90. Like, I mean, it's non-stop. It's been this way since before this show.
Right.
Like, that's why, when we initially sat down and, talked about this show, they kind of chose like this like core group of people because we already had this sort of crazy fucked up little carousel that was happening of like incestual fuckery that was just gold. And that's still our lives today. Like, we don't know any different. And because sometimes I wish I could say our show is scripted because when you look at it from an outside perspective, it's fucked up, but to us it's the norm.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
It's just normal.
Yeah.
It's just a Tuesday.
Simple Tuesday. Or Sexy Tuesday, as Peter told us they used to have.
Thursday.
No, it was actually
Sir.
Sexy. Initially, it was Sexy Sundays.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Before we had the lounge. And those were really interesting to see, like the tiny little restaurant portion of Sir turn into a nightclub. It was not always sexy, but it was. I think there was one time someone was like, we have all these drapes all over the place, and there was definitely there was a couple like having like sex mind.
Oh, wow.
One of them.
I love that.
Yeah, you know. Nowhere near the food or anything they worry about. It was like kind of by the bathrooms. No one worrying, okay.
I love how Guillermo is the star DJ there now, pretty much. Because when we were there with my parents, he was DJing, and he was great. And then another DJ took over around the time we were wrapping up our dinner, and it wasn't very good.
No, my ears were bleeding.
Yeah, it was a bit much.
Yeah, it's usually like around like 9:30 or 10. That's when they turn the lights way low, and then the music way up.
Yeah.
And that's when like the DJ comes and all that. But yeah, no, Guillermo, like, he's always like had really great playlists happening there. I have so many like nostalgia songs that I hear sometimes, and I'm like brought back to like working lunches at Sir. And, like, what the back when that's like old school lunches at Sir, because we haven't been open for lunch in a really long time. That just shows how long I worked there.
Lunches at Sir sounds like a good summer replacement series.
Find us on Instagram and Twitter at PumpRulesPod, or go to PumpRulesPodcast.com for more information. Email PumpRulesPodcast@gmail.com and follow on Facebook at Facebook.com/PumpRulesPodcast. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.